Hello there. Whether you're just getting started with wine or work in the industry, this video contains many useful resources that will round out your wine knowledge. Let's get started. Most wine is made from grapes, but they're not like the ones you find in the grocery store. Wine grapes, Latin name, Vitis vinifera, are smaller, sweeter, have thick skins, and contain seeds. There are over 1,300 wine grape varieties used in commercial production, but only about 100 of these varieties make up 75% of the world's vineyards. Today, the most planted wine grape in the world is Cabernet Sauvignon. Find out more about the basics of wine, and which ones to try, in the following presentation. What you will learn in this session: winemaking areas of the world, how wine is made, grape varieties, quality classifications, how to read a wine label, the various styles of wine bottles, the correct storage of wine, how to serve a bottle of wine, and the last one is tasting. Wine definitions. Wine is the fermented juice of grapes. What is the meaning of fermentation? Fermentation is the process where grape juice turns into wine. The formulas are: sugar add with yeast, it will turn to alcohol, and add with carbon dioxide. Tannin is a substance that comes from grape skins, stems, and pips. It's a preservative that makes good wines last for years. Vintage mean refers to the specific year the grapes were harvested. Every year is a vintage year. Some are better than others. Grape varieties, red or black. Cabernet Sauvignon, Pinot Noir, Syrah, Syrah, Petite Syrah or Shiraz from Australia, Balsamina, Argentina, Merlot, Cabernet Franc, Gamay, Grenache Tintet or Tinta of Spain, Nebbiolo, Sangiovese or Brunello of Montalcino. Grape varieties, white. Riesling, Chardonnay, Semillon, Semillon Blanc, France, Sauvignon Blanc, Fume Blanc from California, South Africa, Australia, and New Zealand, Chenin Blanc, Steen, South Africa, Pinot Gris, Pinot Grigio from Italy, Tokay d'Alsace, Alsace, Petit Gris from France, Pinot Blanc, Pinot Bianco from Italy, Gewürztraminer, Muscadet, Pinot Blanc from California, Muscat. Now let's learn to each country closer. France produces over 20% of the world's wines. Top consumer of wine per capita. Set the standard for fine wine production. Grapes were planted in France at least 2,700 years ago, before the Roman occupation. French white wine. First is Burgundy, includes Chablis. It's located on central eastern France. White Burgundies are all dry and made with 100% Chardonnay grapes. Second is Bordeaux. Primary grape varieties used are Semillon and Sauvignon Blanc. Two most important regions are Graves, mostly Sauvignon Blanc, and Sauternes, mostly Semillon, making sweet dessert wines. Third is Loire Valley. Primary grape varieties used are Chenin Blanc and Sauvignon Blanc. For types of Loire Valley white wines are Pauly Fume as Sauvignon Blanc, Muscadet, Sancerre also as Sauvignon Blanc, Vouvray as Chenin Blanc. Fourth is Alsace. It's located near Germany. Most famous for dry Riesling. Also produces Gewürztraminer, it's a spicy dry white wine. Pinot Blanc, it's a dry white wine. French red wine. Bordeaux. Three major grape varieties used are Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot and Cabernet Franc. Primary wine regions are Médoc, Pomerol, Saint-Emilion and Graves. Bordeaux's quality levels are Bordeaux, generic. Bordeaux form a specific sub-region, in example, Saint-Emilion. Chateau's wines. Chateau's wines were classified in 1855 to establish quality levels. Classification levels were first, second, third, fourth, or fifth growth wines. Bordeaux. First growth or premier cru. All were declared first growths in 1855 except Chateau Mouton Rothschild, which was added in 1973. Chateau Lafite Rothschild, Pauillac. Chateau Margaux, Margaux. Chateau Latour, Pauillac. Chateau Haut-Brion, Pessac. Chateau Mouton Rothschild, Pauillac. Burgundy. Two most important grape varieties are Pinot Noir and Gamay. Three major red wine producing areas in Burgundy are Côte d'Or, Beaujolais, Côte Chalonnaise. Rhône Valley. Most important grape variety is Syrah. Most famous producer is Châteauneuf du Pape. The next famous wine production country is Italy. Largest producer of wine in the world. Production is just under 25% of the world's total. Largest consumer of wine, its second largest per capita as population is larger than France. Italy has been making wine for about 3,500 years. Produces 900 different wines from over 240 geographical regions. Italian white wines. Soave, Garrinega grape. Pinot Grigio, Pinot Grigio grape. Greco di Tufo grape. Frascati, Malvasia and Trebbiano grapes. Italian red wines. Piedmont region. Considered the best wine region in Italy. Barolo and Barbaresco are two superior wines from this region, made from the Nebbiolo grapes. Tuscany. Chianti is a well-known Tuscan red wine made from at least 80% Sangiovese grapes. The different qualities of Chianti are Chianti, generic, Chianti Classico, good, Chianti Classico Reserva, aged for 3 years, an excellent level of wine. Brunello di Montalcino is another excellent red wine from Tuscany. Next is Veneto, one of Italy's largest wine-producing areas. Valpolicella and Amarone are famous red wines from this region. Amarone wine is a Valpolicella wine made by a special process of drying the grapes on straw mats. The resulting wine is fuller and higher in alcohol content than most red wines, ranging from 14% to 16%. South Africa. South African wine had many production problems in the early 1900s, mainly overproduction. In 1918, the Cooperative Wine Growers Association was formed, known as KWV. 4/5 of wine production in South Africa is through cooperative cellars and the trade is controlled by the KWV. There are 14 different wine growing regions. Lebanon. Wine is produced in the Bekaa Valley, south of Beirut. One of the oldest sites of wine production in the world. In Baalbek, the wine-growing center of Lebanon, there is a temple to Bacchus or the god of wine built in the 2nd century. The most important winery is Chateau Muser. Other wineries are Kafreya and Ksara. Chateau Muser. Chateau Muser's winemaker, Mr. Serge Hochart, trained in Bordeaux, and as a result the wines are made and aged following Bordeaux methods. Red wine is made from 50 to 80% Cabernet Sauvignon and filled out with Cinsault and Syrah. White wines are made from Chardonnay, Sauvignon Blanc and Muscat. The white wines do not have as good a reputation as the red wines. Chateau Muser exports 95% of the wine produced to the UK, US, Sweden and Southeast Asia. The wine is not made at the vineyard, the grapes are taken by truck to a winery north of Beirut. Let's talk about wine quality classifications. Wines are classified according to the following: areas of production, borders based on the type of soil, grape varieties permitted, grapes that naturally grow in that region and have not been imported from other areas, cultural practices, planting distances, pruning, maximum allowed yield per hectare, vinification methods like aging, use of sulfites, minimum alcoholic degree allowed. France. Table wine. Vin de pays. Quality wine. Appellation d'origine contrôlée, it's called AC or AOC. Vins de table. Vins de limits de qualité supérieure, or called VDQS. Wine quality classifications, Italy. Vino di Tavola, lowest ranking, table wine. Indicazione geografica tipica, IGT, table wines which specify their region or origin. These wines can often be very interesting as they can be made from grapes and winemaking techniques not common to the area of production. Denominazione di origine controllata, DOC, specifies geographical zone, grapes used, yields, etc. Denominazione di origine controllata e garantita, DOCG. Must meet all the requirements of DOC Wine Plus, be bottled in the region of production and meet the tasting approval of the Ministry of Agriculture. Wine quality classifications, Germany. German classifications are similar to other countries, however, they have one additional factor. German wines are measured for the sugar content in the grapes picked. The various levels of quality show the minimum sugar levels required. The sugar content is measured in degrees Celsius. The sugar content increases as the grapes become riper. This different method of classification means that any vineyard can be awarded the highest classification if the grapes are ripe enough. Table wines. Deutscher Tafelwein, the lowest classification. Minimum sugar level required is 44 degrees Celsius. Land wine, second classification of German table wine. Sugar level must be minimum of 47 degrees Celsius. This wine must also be dry or medium. Kwaliteitswein bestimmter Anbaugebiet, QBA, wine from designated quality regions. Sugar levels 50 to 72 degrees Celsius. Qualitätswein MIT Prädikat, QMP, quality wines with special attributes of quality. There are different levels of Prädikat wine. These are Cabinet, 67 to 85 degrees OE. Normal harvest time, Spätlese, 76 to 95 degrees OE. Late harvest wines. Auslese, 83 to 105 degrees OE, harvested from specially selected grapes. Beerenauslese, 110 to 128 degrees OE, specially selected moldy grapes. Trockenbeerenauslese, 150 to 154 degrees OE, grapes are dried and shriveled. Eiswein, at least 110 to 128 degrees OE, frozen grapes, but not moldy. Wine quality classifications, South Africa. South Africa's classification systems is called wine of origin. Quality wines bear a seal which is only granted after tasting by an independent panel. A wine is certified for any of the following: estate, region, district, or ward of origin. The seal guarantees the information on the label is in line with the rules of the wine of origin scheme. To qualify for a vintage, a minimum of 75% of the grapes must be from the stated year, and if a variety of grape is stated, then that grape must form 75% of the total of the wine. Wine bottles. Pale green. Used in the Burgundy and Rhone regions. Used throughout the world for Chardonnay, Pinot Noir and Syrah. Dark green. Used in the Bordeaux region for red wine and throughout the world for Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Zinfandel. Clear glass. Used for Bordeaux white wine. In other countries for Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon. Brown. The Rhine region in Germany. Green in Alsace and Mosel. Associated with German grape varieties such as Riesling and Gewürztraminer. Less expensive bottles of Chianti. Champagne and sparkling wine. Sherry and port. The storage of wine. It is important to maintain wine at a suitable temperature between 10 to 14 degrees Celsius during storage because wine is a living product which needs to be stored at an appropriate temperature in order to develop and mature in the bottle. Constant changes of temperature or storage in an environment which is too hot or too cold will damage the wine. Wine bottles should be stored on their side to prevent the cork drying out and oxygen damaging the wine. Service temperature. Always bring new stock from the cellar or storage area to the service area as soon as possible. This will allow wines to be brought to their service temperature. Do not bring out more stock than you require. Extended chilling can damage white wines and overheating can damage red wines. Once a red wine has been warmed to room temperature, it should not be returned to a cold cellar. Frequent heating and cooling will damage wine. It is better to serve a wine too cool rather than too hot. A wine will warm up gradually, but can be badly damaged if it is allowed to become too hot. The correct temperature. Wines should always be served at the following temperatures. Champagne and rose, 6 to 8 degrees Celsius. Sweet white wine, 8 to 10 degrees Celsius. Dry white wine, 11 to 13 degrees Celsius. Light-bodied red wine, 15 to 17 degrees Celsius. Full-bodied red wine, 17 to 19 degrees Celsius. How to serve a bottle of wine. What equipment do you require? Waiter's friend or corkscrew. Napkin. Ice bucket for white wine and champagne. And the most very important thing is the wine knowledge. Take a look at this tasting table for your guidance. Terminology for tasting. Appearance. Nose. Palate. Summary. The basics of winemaking. Grape varieties. Wine-producing areas of the world, particularly France, Italy, South Africa, and Lebanon. Wine classifications and their meanings. Information given on a wine label. Different types of bottles. Tasting. To get more information about wine knowledge, you can go and access the following: the Internet, the Oxford Companion to Wine, Wine and Spirits Education Trust UK, videos in the F&B office, wine books in the F&B office. You can download the PowerPoint presentation file of wine knowledge for free. Find the link in the description. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe this channel. Greetings from the world of tourism.